What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brick Hive. Thank you for joining me. So is Lego hypocritical about violence? So it's a pretty interesting question, and it's a topic that many of us have talked about at different lengths for different reasons. Really, a lot of it, most of the conversations kind of boil down to military sets, but there are other things that have happened in the Lego community, or that Lego has done, that we've questioned and didn't think really made any sense. And it usually always comes back to, like, they don't produce realistic weapons, or that's what I used to think it was, honestly. I used to think it was strictly just because they wouldn't do realistic weapons. But that is not exactly the case. Lego, I've mentioned this many times, Lego is really horrible at communicating decisions with their fans and their customers. And I feel like I should go ahead and put a disclaimer out here right now. Again, I say this disclaimer all the time, but I'll say it again, just for anybody that's not understanding. Lego can do what they want. I get that. I don't have to buy Lego. None of us have to buy Lego. They can do whatever they want. That doesn't mean I still am not going to criticize them for things that I think need to be criticized, or I'm not going to question things that I think just really should have some answers. Yeah, their communication sucks, or they have an Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of perspective on things.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
Wrong.
So yeah, I mean, I just really wanted to ask the question about, like, okay, is killing in fantasy, or science fiction okay? Just because it's not technically real? I've always thought, well, okay, I mean, yeah, like when somebody in Star Wars would get shot or something like that, science fiction, like it's a laser instead of like a bullet coming out. But the laser's still putting a hole in their chest and killing them. See, that's the thing, is the whole time I thought that the whole reason Lego wouldn't make military sets or like realistic guns or whatever the case may be is because they were realistic. That was the whole point, was there's the real world and then there's science fiction and fantasy. But that is not exactly the case. So because of that ill communication with Lego, I always just assumed that the strict thing that they had was we're just not making realistic weapons, period. And that includes the military. So I thought the reason that they hadn't done the realistic weapon approach was because maybe there was a correlation between playing with war toys and becoming violent because of it. And not just war toys, but just, violent toys in general. But as I was doing research, I found out that that's not actually true. Or I researched multiple studies on this, and every one of them said the same thing. There's no scientific evidence suggesting that playing war games in childhood leads to real-life aggression. So I'm like, well, that's good. I found this out that, okay, there's no correlation. There's no scientific evidence. So what's going on? And maybe Lego doesn't know this. But Lego does know that, which shouldn't be surprising. I'm sure they've done their research. But yeah, in their official statement, they say, we also acknowledge children's well-proven ability to tell play from reality. However, to make sure to maintain the right balance between play and conflict, we have adhered to a set of unwritten rules for several years. In 2010, we have formalized these rules in a guideline for the use of conflict and weapons in Lego. I mean, basically, what they say is the basic aim is to avoid realistic weapons and military equipment that children may recognize from hotspots around the world. Okay, so there's more, which we'll get to in a second, but let's go back. Let's go back to the unwritten rules. Okay, so look, that's smart on Lego's part, because as a company, that gives them a lot of wiggle room, a lot of give and pull to kind of do what they want with that kind of stuff, which I will address that in a much bigger detail towards the end of this video. So, but look, I don't really agree with that statement about them really. I'm not saying some kids aren't smart enough to maybe recognize what, like, that gun looks like, that gun or whatever, but I just don't agree that it's detrimental to kids. I don't think even most of them would pay enough attention or watch the news. You know what I mean? It just seems very slim. And not even that, but one of the most popular toys is G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, growing up, was one of the most popular toys and franchises. And it taught a whole generation of kids about standing up and fighting for what's right and protecting others. So I don't know. I just don't really agree with that. But like, I respect her decision. I just don't necessarily agree with it. But yeah, it's very interesting. All right, so let's read on for a second. So let's see, hotspots around the world. All right, we got to that. And to refrain from showing violent or frightening situations when communicating about Lego products. At the same time, the purpose is for the Lego brand not to be associated with issues that glorify conflicts and unethical or harmful behavior. Wow, a lot to unpack right there. So let's go back and read it again. To refrain from showing violent or frightening situations when communicating about Lego products. All right, so they don't really want Lego products to associate with communicating or showing violent or frightening situations. All right, do they mean literally just showing right then and there, or affiliating? Because, okay, so like for instance, I got a good example. We'll take the new Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader set that just came out, okay? From the Obi-Wan show. That gray blob, with the couple cool minifigs. Right before that scene, like literally a few minutes before that fight even happens, they show Darth Vader walking down the street in a town, killing people left and right. And one of the people he kills is a kid. Snaps the kid's neck. Just a few minutes before that fight. Like, I mean, it's just like, okay, realistic weapons, hotspots around the world, but, snapping a kid's neck. I just don't understand what they mean exactly by, refrain from showing violent or frightening situations. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if it falls into the unwritten rule kind of thing. So let's go to the next sentence. It says, at the same time, the purpose is for the Lego brand not to be associated with issues that glorify conflicts and unethical or harmful behavior. Okay, so, I mean, glorified conflicts and unethical or harmful behavior. I mean, it's like, Lego, what do you mean? Are you talking about just, like, with military war issues? Because there's a lot of situations that it's not... there's not like gray area. There's clearly somebody hurting another person, or a country hurting a whole bunch of other people in another country. But let me just put something into kind of a perspective real quick. Let me roll down a list of Lego sets and things that are affiliated with them, okay? So, there's Star Wars. We'll start with Star Wars. I've lost track of how many limbs have been cut off. I mean, just in the recent episode of Obi-Wan, a stormtrooper falls and gets cut right in half. I mean, so we're slicing people in half and cutting limbs off left and right. In your Jurassic World, your Jurassic Parks, dude, those dinosaurs eat people, man. Violently, I might add. And what were they saying again about glorify conflicts, unethical or harmful behavior, showing violent or frightening situations? Like, what? Harry Potter. There's been plenty of deaths in Harry Potter. I know they're all about, no, we stay away from the Deathly Hallows or whatever. But dude, in Goblet of Fire, Cedric, amongst other people, but Cedric was a teenager. Dead. But yeah, there's been plenty of deaths in Harry Potter. Batman. The new Batman movie. Plenty of violence. And the 89 Batman, there were real guns used. Semi-automatic guns that were used in that. I think there were Uzis in that movie. The Batwing had a Gatling gun. So did the Batmobile. But it's okay because it crosses that line into fantasy. You talk about Marvel right off the bat, I think of like, you know, Loki and Wanda committing atrocities upon people. I mean, and it's interesting how, like, again, like, they're kind of made to be sympathized bad guys or whatever, but they're still bad guys. I mean, dude, Thanos eliminated half the universe. I mean, and like, what about swords, bow and arrows? I mean, you can do probably more gruesome damage with a sword or even maybe a bow and arrow than you would with a gun. I mean, but that doesn't count because it's not, you know, on a hot spot of the world or something. Here, there's some more. Let me read them. Prince Persia. There were 66 deaths in that movie. I looked it up. Punisher. They put out a Punisher minifig. We all know the history of the Punisher, and he doesn't even have superpowers. He uses guns. Colosseum. Black Widow. Lord of the Rings. Knights. Pirates. Stranger Things. Indiana Jones. Even Spider-Man Far From Home. Mysterio was killed by a real gun. Correction, Mysterio wasn't killed by a realistic gun, but he tried to kill Spider-Man with a realistic gun. So what does that mean? Like that scene, that particular gun. Are handguns, you know, Glocks and stuff not used in war? Like, I know it's not an AR-15, but if you look at soldiers, they don't just have rifles, they have handguns too. That's what I mean. Is Lego being hypocrites about it? I don't know. This isn't really a rant. It's more of just questions. You know, I think about these things and I'm like, what does this mean? They're not clear. So I try and find some answers as much as whatever I can find. And you know, then I present them to you guys, and I really would like to know your opinions. And please comment, tell me, what do you think? Are they being hypocritical? Just not really sure. No, clearly they're doing the right thing. Just trying to put some stuff into perspective. All of you all can give me your opinion about it. I personally think they're being a little hypocritical about it. I think that they like that unwritten rule to give them that wiggle room to say, okay, look, we're gonna say that we don't like violence, we don't want, you know, blah blah blah, but we're just gonna keep it on the fantasy side so we can, you know, still make plenty of money. I don't know. You know, I could totally be wrong, and I probably, like I said, I probably am. I probably am, but I just like talking about it. I like getting the questions out there and getting everybody's gears working, you know what I mean? Anyways, I hope all of you are doing well and staying safe. I hope you're all having a great day or night. If you like my channel, if you like my content, if you thought this weird Lego video I made was pretty cool, why don't you go ahead and get all violent on that like button for me? But make sure you do it in a very sci-fi or fantasy sort of way. Do it. And subscribe. Join the hive. Peace out, everybody.